Life was hard for Joseph in the prison, but he soon adjusted, and God blessed him there. He became like the assistant to the head jailer, and in time, Joseph was put in charge of the entire prison. Pharaoh put two of his servants in prison. One was the chief butler, and the other was the chief baker. One night, both men had a dream. And when Joseph saw them in the morning, they looked concerned. And Joseph said, "What's wrong?" Oh, we have had a dream, and we don't know what it means. Well, tell me the dream. The chief butler says, "I saw 3 branches of a grapevine. Suddenly they blossomed and brought forth grapes. I squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup and served it to him." Oh, well, that means this. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh is going to give your old job back to you, and you will serve him once again. Please, when you're once again in favor of Pharaoh, please mention me to him and ask him to get me out of the prison. I don't deserve being here. The baker was anxious to tell his dream. He said, "I had 3 baskets of bread on my head. Suddenly the birds came and ate up the bread." Well, the 3 baskets also stand for 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will hang you from a tree until you're dead. Then the birds will come and eat your flesh. Well, 3 days later, it happened just like Joseph said. But when the butler was once again in the good graces of the Pharaoh, he forgot Joseph. 2 years later, Pharaoh had a dream. He woke up during the night, troubled, but then he went back to sleep. He had a second dream. This time he woke up so troubled that he couldn't go back to sleep, and he called his counselors in. But they couldn't interpret the dream for him. Finally, the butler said, I remembered 2 years ago when I wronged you and you put me in prison. There, I met a man who could interpret dreams, and it came true just like he said. So Pharaoh sent guards to go get Joseph. They cleaned him up and brought him in. Pharaoh said, "I had 2 dreams. In the first dream, I was standing next to the river. Suddenly, I saw 7 beautiful cows, nice and plump and fat, grazing along next to the river. But as I watched, out of the river came these scrawny, skinny, awful-looking cows. They came and they ate the good cows. Yet afterwards, they were just as scrawny and skinny as before." Now, in my second dream, I was looking at some stalks of grain when suddenly there were 7 plump, beautiful heads of grain. And as I watched, the stalks next to them appeared these dried up, skinny heads of grain. The dried up grain swallowed the good ones, and yet they were just as scrawny and dried up as before. Joseph said, "Pharaoh, God has told you what is about to come about. He's giving you 2 dreams because it will for sure happen. He said, the 7 good cows and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 good years. Abundance, a great abundance like Egypt has never seen. But the 7 skinny cows, the 7 dried up heads of grain are 7 years of famine like Egypt has never seen. So bad that people will even forget the good years. Now, you should find a man of wisdom who was able to go throughout the land during the good years and collect grain so that you'll be prepared for the famine. If you don't do this, Egypt will be destroyed by the famine. Pharaoh turned to his counselors and said, who else can we find that is as qualified as Joseph? He has the Spirit of God in him. He turned to Joseph and said, except for me, you will be the most powerful man in Egypt. You can go throughout the land and make preparations for the famine. That's just what Joseph did. For the 7 years of great abundance, he went throughout the land and collected grain and put them into storehouses. And just like he said, after 7 years, a fierce famine struck the land. People came to Pharaoh and said, we need grain, we need bread. He said, go to Joseph. So they went to Joseph. He opened up the storehouses and sold them grain. Even people from other countries heard that Egypt had grain, and they came. And they bought grain from Joseph.